Hello, friends. Welcome to today's show where I am in conversation with my good friend Wajahat Ali. Joined him yesterday on Substack. We talked for a long time, brought in another guy at the end, Nick Paro. We had a great threesome for a moment. It was awesome. Worth listening to for sure. And if you want to jump to it, that conversation starts at about 38 minutes into today's show. But like every day here on my daily ad-free podcast, I've got your headlines and your clips from yesterday coming up. There's nowhere to get your news, more comprehensive list of stories and clips on a daily podcast, independent, better than right here on Stand Up. Daily by around 7 a.m. East on weekdays. So please subscribe if you haven't already with a paid subscription, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. A lot of work goes into each and every show. I do it all entirely myself, and I can use your support. It's a daily podcast talking about the most important issues that matter to you, your family, your country, your community, and your planet. I bring on the smartest people I can find on the most important issues, and we try to have as much fun as we can here. So thank you very much for joining me. If you are a paid subscriber, you get the benefits of the community itself. You get to join us on the Discord platform where you're never alone if you're a stand-up subscriber. And you can join our weekly hangouts Thursday night at 8 p.m. That's tomorrow night at 8 East. I will host another hangout, this time again from my parents' home in upstate New York, where I am up here helping mom recover from her horrific car accident. She is doing great, made it all the way up the stairs, 12 steps yesterday. It is so inspiring, and I am so grateful as I talk about a little more detail in my conversation with Waj coming up. All right, let's get to those headlines and clips, starting with the fact that many of you are mad at me for making fun of curling. A lot of curling fans out there. I apologize. I had no idea. I will give it another chance. I'm just kidding. But more importantly, folks, the Olympics continues, and I hope that you are enjoying them, I guess. All right. Well, yesterday, congressional leaders said that a deal is still possible with the White House on Homeland Security Department funding before it expires this weekend. But the two sides are still pretty far apart. Democrats demanding new restrictions from phony Sopranos immigration crackdown. After federal agents fatally shot two protesters in Minneapolis last month, Democrats say U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, needs to be dramatically reined in and are prepared to let Homeland Security shut down if their demands are not met. How about that? That's the Associated Press reporting. That's a very important story from yesterday. Another one, the EPA is barreling toward a Supreme Court climate shutdown. The agency is racing to repeal a scientific finding that requires it to fight global warming. Experts say the goal is to get the matter before the justices while Trump is still in office. Yesterday, the administrator of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, said he will move to repeal a scientific determination that requires the federal government to combat climate change. So it's no surprise legal experts said the speed of it would be no accident, could allow the Supreme Court to consider related legal challenges while Jabba the Pizza Hut is still in office. The conservative majority in the court, with an anti-regulatory bent, the New York Times writes, could chip away at the federal government's power to limit the greenhouse gas emissions that are dangerously warming the earth. Huge story. We've got to pay attention to that. Hopefully they fail. We have to do whatever we can to make them fail. The Georgia ballot inquiry apparently originated with an election denier in the White House, in the Trump White House. How about that? A newly unsealed affidavit showed that a criminal investigation into the 2020 election in Fulton County, Georgia, relied heavily on claims about ballots that had been widely debunked. That's right. The guy's name is Kurt Olson. The FBI criminal investigation originated from a referral sent by him, and we are learning a lot more about this day by day, but it's a very important story. I want to make sure I mention that one as well. A Republican senator is claiming to have seen the light after new revelations from the government's Jeffrey Epstein files. That's right. Senator Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming said Monday that she suddenly understands what the big deal is, saying she had not been one of the members who had glommed onto this as an issue.
I've not been one of the members who has glommed onto this as an issue. I've sort of intentionally deferred to others to find out about it. But 9-year-old victims,
all over the world, Moscow was just saying, too, it was sort of like a real global network that they're now getting to see on these 4 terminals they have house-side.
Wow. Well, initially, my reaction to all this was, I don't care. I don't know what the big deal is. But now I see what the big deal is, and it was worth investigating. And the members of Congress that have been pushing this were not wrong. So that's really my only reaction.
That's your only reaction. Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with Senator Loomis is decided she's not going to be running for re-election. The New Republic says, like other Republicans in Congress, Loomis put her support of President Trump above the gravity of Epstein's heinous sex crimes against children, preferring to remain willfully ignorant. It was well known for years that the billionaire was convicted of sexually assaulting numerous women, many of them minors. So I thought that was worth mentioning as well in the headlines. Play a little clip for you there. More clips coming up. And how about this? A group of multi-faith organizations are suing General Eisenhower's administration over what they contend is an illegal lack of religious and ideological diversity on the Department of Justice Religious Liberty Commission. The Interfaith Alliance and its president, along with Muslims for Progressive Values and a whole bunch of other organizations named as plaintiffs in a lawsuit. Organizations are asking the court, among other requests, to find the commission violates the Federal Advisory Committee, a law that requires such groups to be fairly balanced in terms of the points of view represented. The Religious Liberty Commission includes Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish people, but no Muslims or members of other minority religious groups. Its members broadly espouse the view that America is a Judeo-Christian nation with limited, if any, restrictions on infusing their religious values into government, the lawsuit said. How about that? Also, big news, big story yesterday a grand jury refused to indict 6 Democratic members of Congress for breaking a law that makes it a crime to interfere with, impair, or influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the military or naval forces of the United States. That's right, Senator Mark Kelly, a retired Navy captain and astronaut, Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, a former CIA analyst, Representatives Jason Crow of Colorado, former Army Ranger, Chris DeLuzio of Pennsylvania, former Navy officer, Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire, a Navy veteran, and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, former Air Force officer, recorded a video last November reminding service members they must refuse illegal orders. But Hippo POTUS called it seditious behavior punishable by death. Although the bar for an indictment is so low that grand juries almost always return one, the Trump regime's attempts to harass those he perceives as opponents have been so outrageous that grand juries have repeatedly refused to go along, says Heather Cox Richardson. The New York Times called yesterday's refusal a remarkable rebuke. That is huge news from yesterday, a major, major development, and that will set a standard that I think it will be tough to challenge. Also yesterday, the National Governors Association canceled its annual bipartisan meeting with the president that usually involves a business meeting and a dinner. Why? Well, because Alexander Scamilton disinvited 2 Democratic governors, Jared Polis of Colorado, Wes Moore of Maryland. Jared Polis, might be worth noting, is openly gay, and Wes Moore is openly black. Anyway, prompting the rest of the Democratic governors to refuse to attend. Democratic governors have a long record of working across the aisle to deliver results and remain committed to this effort, but it's disappointing this administration doesn't seem to share that same goal. At every turn, President Trump is creating chaos and division, and it is the American people who are hurting as a result. The Democratic governors wrote, if the reports are true that not all governors are invited to these events, which have historically been productive and bipartisan opportunities for collaboration, we will not be attending the White House dinner this year. Democratic governors remain united and will never stop fighting to protect and make life better for people in our state. So that was also a big story yesterday. And those are all the headlines that I've gathered for you today. If you've got a story worth mentioning, email it to me. My email is always standupwithpete@gmail.com. Now on to the rest of the clips that I've got for you today. Well, normally I grab like 1 or 2 minute clips, but today I've got a few longer ones because I thought it was worth listening to Senator Van Hollen question the director, or rather Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, as well as a floor speech by Ro Khanna and the questioning of the director of ICE. So I got some longer clips. Let's start with Senator Van Hollen and Howard Lutnick, and then it's worth listening to the whole thing, I think, because after that, I've got a Daily Show clip from last night where Jordan Klepper really points out how absurd and ridiculous and sad the whole saga and lie that Howard Lutnick told and has been telling about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein actually is. So here it is. First, it's Senator Chris Van Hollen, and then after that, great mockery of it, or really commentary of it all, by Jordan Clapper at The Daily Show.
Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him, and then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person. Okay?
Secretary Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said, there's not an indication that you yourself engaged in any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you cut off all contact when, in fact, you had not. When you visited the private island, did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
The only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
And you realize that, this visit took place after he'd been convicted, right? I mean, you made a very big point of saying that you sensed that this was a bad person in 2005. And then, of course, in 2008, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution of a minor. And yet you went and had this trip and other interactions. Did you have a dinner in Epstein's New York City home in 2011?
No.
So the information that suggests that there was a dinner with Woody Allen and Woody Allen's spouse at the Epstein residence, that's there's nothing to that. Is that right?
I actually don't know what you're referring to. There was, look, I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else. Yeah. And what I found was there was a document that says that I had a meeting with him on in May, I think, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Not dinner or otherwise, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
All right. There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about. It had nothing to do with me.
No interaction at all with him on that?
No. As far as I know, no.
Would you, Mr. Secretary, be willing to ensure that the file is complete to share with this committee and the Congress your own records any records you have that relate to Jeffrey Epstein?
I will surely talk about that. I hadn't thought about that. I have nothing to hide. Absolutely nothing.
But Donald Trump isn't the only member of the administration in the hot seat. So is Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary and dad of a family staying at the White Lotus. Now, a while back, he went on a podcast and he explained how he lived next door to Jeffrey Epstein, went to his house once in 2005, got the ick, and never saw him again.
My wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. A one and absolutely done.
One and absolutely done. I commend you, Howard, for your moral clarity. I mean, just to be crystal clear, there was no part of you that was even just a little bit curious about Jeffrey Epstein?
It's gross. The guy's gross. Right with my wife. He's gross. The guy's gross.
It's gross. He's gross. You're right. And if a man who works every day next to Stephen Miller thinks you're gross, wow, that is truly saying something. And so, with his conscience clear, Secretary Lutnick carried his innocent heart to the Senate this morning to testify on broadband deployment. Senator Van Hollen, I see you have a question perhaps about a fiber optic cable.
Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Excuse me, Senator? This is Howard one and done Lutnick you're talking about here. There's no way that 7 years after saying he would never see Epstein again that he visited him on his private island. Okay, Howie, set this guy straight.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation.
Oh, Howie! You're breaking my heart. What was it all the one and the done and the gross and the gross? Was eating with a sex criminal your only option for lunch, Howard? You couldn't have tried making a PB&J just once? And the fact that you went there on a boat makes it so much worse. I mean, if you ran into him at a Potbelly's and he said, sit down, I would understand. But you actively navigated a ship towards the man. You're on there shouting, Captain, raise the sails and set a course for Pedophile Island. Howard, look, man, I don't think I could be more disappointed in you.
My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies.
Howard! I went to Epstein Island, but don't worry, I brought my kids. Isn't the excuse you think it is. Good God. Man. I hate to ask it. I hate it. Howard, I mean, come on. What happened on that island?
We had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children.
Father of the year over here. So just to be clear, Howard Lutnick went from, I never saw that gross man again, to, okay, I did visit his island, to, hey, back off. I left with all my kids, okay? I counted them. I'm the good guy here. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't be too harsh on Howard. Let he who has never sworn he cut ties with a convicted sex offender only to later dock his private yacht onto a private sex island for a quick lunch before continuing his family vacation with not one but multiple nannies cast the first one and done.
All right. There you go. I am back. Was that too long for me to be gone? Did you forget you were listening to the podcast? Were those clips too long? Let me know. I love your feedback. Seriously, if the clips are too long, but I've done this a lot in the past, and folks appreciate the context that they otherwise didn't get a chance to see or saw already, and it's worth listening to again, I guess. I don't know. Let me know. StandUpWithPete@gmail.com. All right. I also thought that Ro Khanna's speech on the House floor yesterday was very good, so I want to include it in its entirety. I think it's a little over 5 minutes, but you're probably listening in speed and a half, or some of you psychos even in double speed.
Yesterday, Congressman Massey and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein files. We spent about 2 hours there, And we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massey and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake, and now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI. Now, my question is, why did it take Thomas Massey and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public? And if we found 6 men that they were hiding in 2 hours, imagine how many men they are covering up for in those 3 million files. But the story gets worse. The reality is that Donald Trump's FBI scrubbed these files in March, long before Thomas Massey and I passed the Epstein Transparency Act. Now, my bill is clear. The Epstein Transparency Act requires them to unredact those FBI files. And yet the Justice Department said to me and to Congressman Massey, we just uploaded whatever the FBI sent us. And guess what? The FBI sent scrubbed files. That means the survivor's statement to the FBI naming rich and powerful men who went to Epstein's island, who went to his ranch, who went to his home and raped and abused underage girls or saw underage girls being paraded, they're all hidden. They're all redacted. It's a little bit of a farce. They're inviting all the members of Congress to go to see the Department of Justice, quote-unquote, unredacted files, but they've got all redacted files from the FBI. And it's not the fault of the Justice Department attorneys. They were just told upload things that Donald Trump's FBI had already scrubbed. It's a blatant violation of the Epstein Transparency Act, but it also asks a fundamental question. Who are they protecting? Why are they protecting these rich and powerful men, people I call part of the Epstein class? Why are we in a country where there is no elite accountability for people who do the most heinous things? You have in England the king now calling for an investigation and possible prosecution of his own brother. You have in Norway the princess who no longer has support to be the queen. And yet in the United States of America, we have someone in the cabinet, Howard Lutnick, who is all over these Epstein files, who allegedly had business with Epstein after he was convicted of pedophilia, and he still is in the cabinet. We need to ask ourselves, are we in America going to have elite accountability? Are we going to call on rich and powerful people who broke the law or cavorted with a pedophile, a convicted pedophile? Are we going to call them to account? Are we going to have prosecutions for billionaires who went to this island and either raped underage girls or saw underage girls being raped and didn't say anything? Are we going to have investigations? I'll tell you what this is about. It's not just about the 1,200 survivors. It's about 2 tiers of justice in America. It's about people who can accumulate wealth and power and don't have to care about the rest of America. They have destroyed so much of this country. Income inequality is at a 60-year high. Worker salaries are less than they have been for 75 years as a part of GDP. Somehow this country seems to be working for the rich and powerful, but it's not working for ordinary working-class Americans. I say enough. It's time to begin with accountability for the Epstein class. Hold them in front of Congress, those people who visited the island or did business with Epstein after he was a convicted pedophile. Investigate them, prosecute them, and let's return to democratic accountability in the United States of America. Let's return to one system of justice in the United States of America. Let's return to a place where every American has a stake in this country.
Yeah, Ro Khanna. Good stuff. Really good floor speech. A lot of people sharing that yesterday, so I thought I'd give it to you in its entirety. And finally, this full clip in its entirety, you get about 5 minutes to question somebody when you're on a House committee. In this case, it's Daniel Goldman. He is a House member from New York and, of course, a Democrat. And he is questioning the director of ICE yesterday, which, of course, made a lot of headlines. Republicans mostly giving him softballs and showing him support and saying Democrats want to support criminals. And, of course, Democrats seeking some justice and trying to rein in ICE. This is the acting director of ICE. His name is Todd Lyons, with Daniel Goldman, the entire thing from yesterday.
As a gentleman from New York, Mr. Goldman, 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lyons, what guidance have you given to your agents about asking people walking on the streets of America to show proof of citizenship?
Sir, as I stated earlier, the men and women of ICE, deportation officers, special agents, we conduct targeted intelligence-driven operation. We don't walk around on the streets asking people about their American citizenship.
Really? So all of those individual American citizens who have been randomly asked are lying. Is that what you're saying?
Sir, if the men and women of ICE are conducting an investigation, whether it be for Title 8 immigration enforcement or Title 18 criminal enforcement, they'll ask someone their nationality.
Right, but that's not targeted because they're asking all sorts of American citizens, including off-duty law enforcement. Now, have you directed at any point your agents under the Supreme Court's racial profiling ruling to only stop non-white people and those who look like immigrants to ask for their citizenship papers?
No, sir, I haven't.
Now, you are aware, of course, and there's numerous well-documented instances of people, American citizens, being asked to show and prove their citizenship. Do you know what other regimes in the 20th century required similar proof of citizenship?
Yes, sir.
What?
Sir, there was various nefarious regimes that did that.
Is Nazi Germany one?
Yes, but
Is the Soviet Union one?
I honestly...
Sir, I'm asking the questions. Is the Soviet Union one?
Yes, sir, but I totally, this is the wrong type of questioning.
I'll tell you what the wrong type of
actually,
thing
sir,
is. Sir, it's my
Holocaust
time.
Museum
Reclaiming my time, sir.
If you want to go see
Reclaiming my
Nazis,
time,
that's what
Mr.
it is.
Chairman.
It's not the men and women of ICE that are out there doing it every day. So to say that the men and women of ICE that
Mr. Chairman, I'm reclaiming my time. I would like my time back, please. Please give me another 15 seconds because he was unnecessarily speaking. You said in your opening statement that references to ICE as the Gestapo or the secret police encourages threats against ICE agents.
100%.
The problem is you have it backwards, sir. People are simply making valid observations about your tactics, which are un-American and outright fascist. So I have a simple suggestion. If you don't want to be called a fascist regime or secret police, then stop acting like one. But people are simply just observing what they are seeing. And that's why people are making those comments. Now, I was a prosecutor for 10 years, prosecuted mob bosses, organized crime, violent criminals, the actual worst of the worst. Not a single criminal law enforcement agent that I worked with wore a mask to conceal their identity. But your department, which is a civil law enforcement agency, is defending the use of masks by your agents because of a so-called rise in threats and assaults against your officer. Now, you said in your opening testimony that assaults against ICE officers are up by more than 1,400%, which is now even more than the 1,300% that your gaslighting spokesperson, Tricia from Ohio, has recently been citing. But here's the problem. There are two separate, very detailed, very thorough investigative reports based on your own data that both conclude that assaults against ICE officers are up about 25%, which is far less, of course, than you assert and far less than you would expect from an agency that has more than doubled its hiring and has an even greater increase in arrests. Now, why is that a problem, Mr. Lyons? It's a problem because the explanation that your agents are wearing masks because of fear of assaults or doxing is outright bogus. You and your untrained, unqualified, unvetted, unidentified agents are intentionally terrorizing our cities and communities all over this country to avoid accountability for their excessive force and their lawless actions. That is why you're wearing masks. So no one can hold you accountable. And you know that the FBI is not going to, because notwithstanding all of the investigations all of you say are going on, the Department of Justice and the FBI has stated they are not investigating those two murders. This is not the America that I know and love. This is not the America my immigrants came to. And it's long past time that you rein in your out-of-control agency and start following the law and the Constitution. And I yield back.
Gentlemen.
All right. Well, what did you think of that? Congressman Daniel Goldman questioning Todd Lyons, the entire clip. And now some shorter clips. Let's go to Rachel Maddow's show on Monday night. She had Senator John Ossoff, who's running for re-election in Georgia, on, talking about the midterm elections. Everybody is watching and worried and preparing to confront whatever tactics of cheating that they clearly plan on taking.
Fulton County officials are suing, trying to block what the Trump administration is doing here. We are expecting a court to order the Trump administration tomorrow to release the background information that they gave the court effectively to allow this search to be done in the first place. What are you expecting from those documents?
Remains to be seen. There's been reporting indicating they may have been relying upon debunked conspiracy theories. We'll find out tomorrow. I think the bottom line is this. We would be naive not to expect dirty tricks. This man tried to steal the presidency when he lost it the first time. And that's why we are going to mount an unprecedented effort to get out the vote and to defend voting rights. But in Georgia and in every major battleground state and key congressional district, the best insurance against dirty tricks is landslide margins of victory. So I hope everybody out there across the nation is feeling the passion that we have to feel right now to do our part at this pivotal moment in American history and power a landslide victory in these midterm elections and rebuke these unprecedented abuses of power.
All right. There you go. John Ossoff. Very serious guy. Very smart guy. We like him, right? We like him. All right. And I've got to share this with you. This is from Fox News, but it's very funny. Jessica Tarlov is great on the 5. Thank goodness she's there. And Jesse Waters is a horrific person by almost every metric. Just a dirtbag of a guy. And so yesterday he was trying to tell a fun story about how somebody saw him and yelled that he was a fascist in his own neighborhood, which I absolutely love. I wish that guy would make it public. And Jessica Tarlov made it. Well, here it is.
Jesse, I was walking rookie today in my neighborhood, on my street.
On a leash?
Yeah. And this. Is that your boyfriend? This car comes throttling down, and he looks me right in the eye. He was already angry. And he sees me, and I give him a wave because he was a neighbor, I thought. And all of a sudden, he passes me, screeches on the brakes, rolls down the window, and says, F you, fascist.
Whoa, really?
Really? Is that real?
In my neighborhood.
Oh my For real?
I swear to God, this happened this afternoon. And I'm thinking to myself, like, he doesn't know I'm a fascist.
Yes, he does. You're on TV.
Do I come across as a fascist?
All right. Yes. I love it so much. Well, I always love the comedy, especially when the comedy deals with the news and the hard issues, which is why we love the monologues of all these comedians from the late night shows, which I think have been doing an amazing job. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers. But here is a little bit I'd like to give you from Jimmy Kimmel on his monologue just last night.
We're going to get a little bit of rain tonight. They say there's going to be rain. The atmosphere is moist here in L.A., whereas things are getting very heated in Washington, D.C., as a select group from Congress has been given access to the unredacted Epstein files, which reference our president far, far more than anyone could have imagined. And so how is Trump responding to that? I'll tell you how. By attacking Canada again. He's at it again. This time he's threatening to close down a new bridge they're almost finished with that connects Windsor to Detroit. He wrote, as everyone knows, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. I didn't know that, actually. They always seem pretty fair to me, but okay. Now, things are turning around and fast, but imagine Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. President Barack Hussein Obama... Is that part of his apology for the Post the other day? Or stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act. Now the Canadian government expects me as president to permit them to just take advantage of America. On top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I don't know. Did he get hit in the brain with a hockey puck or something? I mean, seriously. China is going to ban hockey in Canada? We're going to eliminate the Stanley... I think we got a Code Orange demental emergency going on here right now. He's gone. He's totally gone. I mean, how would China ban hockey in Canada? Would they take all the hockey sticks, make them into chopsticks? And why would they ban hockey in Canada? What purpose would that serve? I think you might need to give this one a little bit more thought. Where is this even coming from? I'm starting to think maybe he saw the show Heated Rivalry and isn't sure where to put those feelings he hasn't experienced before. The dispute is over the brand-new Gordie Howe Bridge, which is named after the Canadian-born Detroit Red Wings hockey legend, which, come on, Canada, you know how this works. Pull out the Sharpie, cross out the Gordie Howe, write in the Donald Trump, and everybody can relax, all right? And, of course, all of this, I believe, every bit of this is an effort to distract us from the fact that Trump's name, according to one of the congressmen who just reviewed the unredacted files, Jamie Raskin, says he did a search. He said Donald Trump's name appears more than 1 million times, which is a lot of... There's only 3 million pages in the whole... That's more than Harry Potter gets mentioned in all 7 Harry Potter books.
All right, Kimmel last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC. And now it's time to get to my conversation with Wajahat Ali from yesterday. That's what I've got for you today. I joined him on his Substack, and I tend to talk a little bit more, just a heads up, when I'm kind of his guest. We were each other's guests. We do it together. That's how you do these things. Waj and I have got a great exchange, as always. Unfortunately, it's an absolute technical nightmare. I'm so sorry that my mic was off, and it was all Substack's fault. I blame Substack and not me. I've definitely had some technical issues here in my makeshift studio in my parents' home, so I'm sorry about that. At some point, I get locked out of the conversation and Waj just talks, but it's absolutely worth listening to, I think. I know at the end then, it seems like I leave and then I come back with another guy, Nick Parro. It's confusing. I think you can follow along. I really hope you like it. We had a great conversation that got very personal about our own issues with anxiety and his with OCD, Waj. And then we talked about midlife crisis and getting separated and how important it is for men to be talking. And 3 of us men had that conversation. So I think it's worth listening all the way to the end. But I know it's long. Waj and I always tend to blabber on, but I think it's worth it and really one of the best. We had like 5,000 people watching live. And some of this you've heard me say before if you're a regular listener, so I apologize for some of the themes. I was trying to introduce myself to a lot of Waj's audience to a certain extent, some of which you already know. So I apologize for that if it sounds a bit self-serving. I was trying to make sure that everybody over in Waj land knew what we do here on Stand Up. So thank you very much for listening to this. I hope you enjoy and get as much out of it as I did with Waj. Let's do it right now with Wajahat Ali on his Substack, The Left Hook, which if you're not already subscribed to, I'm sure you are, but if you're not, sign up right now. So good. Get his books, follow him on all the social media, and also Nick Parro you can learn more about. Looking forward to talking to him again. He comes in at the end. And now let's do it. Waj, who was on air yesterday for almost 4 hours, and the conversation starts with him recapping some of what he had done yesterday and then bringing me in.
Then we had Ro Khanna come on. Congressman Ro Khanna, along with Thomas Massey, has been on top of the Epstein files. He gave the latest. Who you just saw was David Morris, a really brilliant technology reporter with this fantastic book, stealing the future. And now for the token white bald dudes, just to fulfill that diversity quotient, I have Pete Dominic. Pete Dominic, stand up with Pete Dominic. You know him, you love him. If you don't know Pete Dominic, you should. You have to follow him. Pete Dominic's been on top of it for years. He had a fantastic Sirius XM show. He was on CNN beforehand. He used to open for Stephen Colbert. He's a comedian / host. He's a one-man shop who now has Stand Up with Pete. Have you gone on YouTube yet, or are you still doing the Patreon?
Yes. YouTube, Stand Up with Pete, and Substack, Stand Up with Pete. And I my entire daily podcast is subscribers only, ad-free. It's totally supported by subscribers at patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Hi, Waj. Thank you for having the bald white.
We needed the bald white because I had a brown, and then I had another brown, and then I had an elder white with hair, and David had great hair, mashallah, for a tech nerd, and now I needed the bald whites. Pete, you said, let's talk. Whenever we talk, we just riff. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, listen, I like Don Lemon. Don't get me wrong.
Well, Pete has been on Don Lemon too. We're better. Pete likes me more than Don.
I actually don't like Don Lemon. I never liked Don. I worked with Don Lemon at CNN in 2010. I worked with a lot of people who worked with him. I never liked Don. I thought Don was about Don. I think Don is still in large part about Don. But that doesn't make any difference, like my personal opinion on, a lot of his bad takes and so on. Like what he's doing as an independent journalist is important, and it's exciting. It has a lot, and it's working out great for Don Lemon. So power to Don. Anybody could say I'm jealous that he's gained this huge following. And all I would say is, please arrest me.
Yes, please, someone.
I've been trying to get arrested to grow
please
my
come
following.
Arrest Pete Dominic. He is not a white man. He is a light-skinned Venezuelan.
ICE tried to arrest me the other day. I was trying to get arrested by ICE, and they were like, "Are you sure?"
He's like, "Yo quiero Taco Bell," and they're like, "I don't believe you." And like, "Yo soy Mexican."
Like, didn't you start the day with us?
Where's she trying to interview? Go ahead, continue.
I do want to talk about two things in particular. One is I don't believe there's any evidence of cannibalism in the Epstein turmoil, and I want to. A lot of smart people, including my own daughters, are asking me this. Friends of mine, they all think, because TikTok is telling people this because some guy who was on mushrooms alleged some nonsense that was never corroborated. And I just think that we shouldn't be reporting things, those of us that have platforms and journalists, obviously, that aren't true. Just because someone murdered 10 people doesn't mean we need to lie about them murdering 2 more. And so there's terrible, terrible things. Pedophilia is awful. Rape is awful. Those are we don't have to make things up. And a lot of smart people are buying that. That's number one. And the other one that I want to talk about is just reminding people, and I think this is a little bit more fun, yet still insidious and pernicious, that undocumented people don't vote in American elections. And there is some comedy here because you would have to be fucking stupid. You're stupid to think that they do. I think people that think that undocumented people vote in elections are just sometimes like these people that will believe anything else is because someone's making a good argument. But it's usually someone who hasn't registered to vote. Like, you have to have all kinds of ID to register to vote. Then you go and your name is there and you can vote. And here's the thing that I think, imagine some undocumented person. Let's say he's an Asian guy and he walks in and he doesn't speak very good English. And he's like, my name is Giuseppe Antonucci. I live at, and it's like, that would be stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you be here, quote, illegally, undocumented, and then commit a felony? For what reason? So you got to be stupid, I think, to believe a lot of things. And there's a lot of progressives, a lot of people on the left, a lot of well-meaning people that are believing a lot of things. And I think it's important that we do our best to help them, guide them, using all the sources that we have, our experience, our credibility, our critical thinking skills, and our sources to tell people where the truth lies, because the truth matters. And we as progressives, or I don't know, people on Earth One, we can't become them and start believing shit just because it's convenient. Just because I hate someone doesn't mean they did this thing. That's it.
No, I agree. And I think, something I've been talking about last couple of days, especially with the Epstein files, some of my viewers are like, we'll talk about this and talk about that. And I'm reading them and I'm like, I ignore it because I know the data's not there yet, right? And I think especially with the Epstein scandal, because it seems so conspiratorial, Pete, right? It seems so outlandish, but I'd say just follow the evidence. And if that means taking a little bit of time, so be it. And I agree with you, like a lot of people, because the folks are like, well, Pete's just joking about the cannibalism. No, QAnon, folks, and we just talked about QAnon and how QAnon started, Gamergate, right? How it was birthed from the right wing. And it might have been even a psyops, a projection to cover what they were actually doing, right? They blamed the entirety of the left or anyone who was a critic of Donald Trump, I'm not making this up, of being a devil-worshipping child sex trafficker who not only raped children, but we allegedly ate children as well. That's where the whole eating children has come on. And now people are saying they're eating kids. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The rape by itself is bad enough. So we have to be factual. We can't allow ourselves to be hijacked by sensationalism and conspiracy theories. Go with the facts. The facts alone, Pete, what we found out, and this is just what we know.
Yeah, yes.
It is horrific enough. Right? Like if you connect the dots, you're like, you don't need to like lean in to the exaggerated stuff, right? And even when some of these, I'll give you another example. Some people are like saying, well, that testimony and that testimony. I'm like, that testimony of one particular individual seems so outlandish to me that unless I get it completely verified, you don't need to go there, right? You have enough there. And when it comes to, if you will, the liberals, right? When it comes to progressives in this particular moment, what is your take on how progressives should demand accountability? Or let me put it this way. How should Democrats be demanding accountability in this particular moment? Because as you know, the Democratic brand is lower than Trump's brand. Yes, Democrats are winning, but people don't have faith in the Democratic Party or Schumer or Jeffries. But now you have this friggin' blitzkrieg of information, scandal after scandal after scandal. You have all the polls against ICE, against Epstein, against the economy, against crypto bros. How do you, as the white, want the Democrats to fight in this moment?
Well, I think that I don't agree with the fact that the Democratic brand, I mean, I agree that that's the polling. I agree that the vast majority of people think that the Democratic brand is bad. But I follow this, and I've been covering politics for a living for 15 years. I've seen all of it. And I could name dozens of fighters in the House that are currently elected. We'll call them electeds. People who are currently in office. I think there are so many effective Democrats. And I think there are so many more that are running each and every day. And I have great faith and great support. I'm supporting different candidates all over the country in all different kinds of ways. I think that they are fighters. I do believe that there, to some extent, this narrative about the left is having its own Tea Party moment, which references that Republicans back in 2010 got rid of establishment Republicans, and they elected like radicals on the right. That
2014, right here in Virginia, David Bratt's surprise victory.
Exactly. Who was the guy that he beat? He was one of the three.
Eric Cantor, who was supposed to be the future leader.
Eric Cantor was one of the most powerful Republicans. He got beat. Well, so did the congressman who AOC beat to become a congresswoman whose name I don't even remember anymore. See? And so I do think that there's a lot more. I think we're seeing that. I think it's different. I think it's way more grassroots as opposed to the 2010 Tea Party movement was absolutely funded by a whole bunch of billionaires, Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers, and others. So I do think that there are a lot of fighters currently elected. I think there are a lot of people running. I think there are a lot of good people, honest people, smart people. I mean, you're going to tell me that Jeannie Raskin and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and dozens of other congressmen, Ro Khanna and Congresswoman Stansberry, and just so many just come to mind that I think are really good fighters. And we don't have to agree with everything that they do and say. But, you know, we have to understand that there are a lot of really important people, and that it takes – politics is a thing. Like you have to get things done. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think the left is in danger of being so angry and so frustrated that we eat ourselves alive, that we're never satisfied unless we have perfection. So I see a lot of fighters. I'm very excited by what I'm seeing. I think that when it comes to the Epstein files, I think more than anything else, the fighters are the victims or survivors. And I think that they are never going to let this go. And it's really clear who is protecting them. Almost the entire Republican Party, but for Thomas Massie, who I'm not going to say is brave. It is not brave. It is not courageous to stand up and stand by the victims of sexual assault. I've been doing it my entire career and life, and it doesn't take courage. It takes a certain sense of moral clarity, knowing right from wrong. It's not hard to stand on the right side of things, at least not for me. And I'm tired of people acting like it's brave to stand with victims. That's just normal. That's being a good human. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with a whole bunch of congressmen, certainly Democrats. And why aren't the Republicans joining them? This is This is the worst thing, the worst crime you can commit. And they've been calling us pedophiles. I've been called pedophile by so many people in my town. Why? Because I fought for LGBT youth at our public schools. Because
can you tell people what happened in your town, specifically at the school?
Yes, I mean,
at the school.
Which is, by the way, the thing that we should be looking for with our journalists, with our commentators, with our influencers, with our Substackers. Like, this is like being the change you want to see has always been my mantra. I've said at the end of my show every day. I've done a daily show for over 15 years. Be the change you want to see. And if I wasn't that, I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world. So when all the shit went down in my local town and the Moms from Liberty came and the fascists came, first they came for black folks and they were screaming about all the, critical race theory nonsense and DEI. That was one cycle. The next cycle, it was LGBT youth and worrying about trans girls using the bathrooms and playing sports. And through all of that, I went to every meeting I could and I spoke out and I spoke up at those meetings and I posted on our local Facebook. And as a result of a lot of the activity and as a result of getting their media story killed because they were going to lie about a black family in our town, as a result of that, they called in a fake child protective services call, an anonymous call on me and said that I was sexually assaulting my then 15 and 17-year-old daughters. Mm. The detectives had to come to my house and interview my daughters about their relationship with me, which is like yours, my crown jewel of my life, my relationship with my daughters and being their dad and being a girl dad and learning from them. And luckily, my 17-year-old daughter, not luckily, I think she's just brave and awesome and smart. She said to these police officers who were interrogating me because local fascists called in an anonymous fake complaint, obviously, she said, the only reason you're here is because my dad's a good guy. That's why you're here. My dad and I are super close and we have never had anything like this. This is to silence him. They were trying to silence me because I was so effective. This is what fascists do. This is organized crime. And that is scary. I mean, it was the nail in the coffin, as you know, because we're good personal friends, in my marriage. My wife was like, I married a comedian, not an activist. And I was like, I get it. But that's the truth. I mean, that's what we have to always be doing as allies, as white people. And that's what people are doing in Minneapolis. And that's what people are doing around the country. But that stuff is exactly the kind of behavior that's criminal behavior. Calling in an anonymous fake complaint, trying to destroy me and silence me. These are the kind of things that happen to people who are trying to speak out, speak the truth, be the change they want to see. And that's why we've got to support these types of journalists and these types of creators and not support people who are just saying shit to get clicks, even if they're well-meaning, even if they're on the left, even if they're progressives, if they're lifting other people's work, if they're doing unethical things, if they're trying just to be spectacular. I'm so tired of that because there are so many of us that are doing the work every day and that are putting ourselves out there, putting ourselves in danger, limiting our ability to earn an income. And that's exactly what independent journalism is. And by the way, that is what Don Lemon did. So I'm giving him a hard time, which I'm always happy to do. But that is what he did. And that is what you've been doing. You've received all kinds of threats throughout your career just for being Muslim and saying things, right? I mean, so it's a matter of courage to some extent for those of us who are doing this, proudly doing this. But that's where I think that comes in. And that's the truth, that people need to know that this is what they will do. This is what they will do to silence us.
And, I haven't been friends with Pete Dominick just because of his shiny bald head. It's also because like he said, for 15 years, he's been on the right side of history. And he has used whatever privilege and platform he has been given when he had the Sirius XM show as a comedian on CNN to fight for the rest of us and for freedom and for democracy. And I remember when you were telling me, hey, man, like this is happening in my local town. I got to do something. And folks, this was in the last 2 years. If you remember, they spent, and by they, I mean the right wing spent over $200 million on anti-trans panic. And it helped nudge the election in the direction of Donald Trump. I'm here in Virginia. I wrote about it 5 years ago, Pete. We were talking about it. I'm like, folks, You're not paying attention. They're using Loudoun County as a test ground for CRT and BLM and Moms for Liberty. And listen, Glenn Youngkin is going to scare over, and I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win. People are like, no, Waj, he's not going to win. I'm like, you're not paying attention. I think he's going to win on this panic. It worked for Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and what happened, Pete? They nationalized it. They went from town to town, and then voila, they went on the anti-trans panic. The anti-trans panic then went to pro-Palestinian panic. Pro-Palestinian panic, undocumented immigrants. Undocumented immigrants, Venezuelans, then Latinos,
Yep.
and then white people being shot and killed in the street by ICE, Pete.
And when I brought this up, I forgot. I get so emotional about that because what happened to me personally, I got called a pedophile by my neighbors in person and on Facebook because I was standing up for LGBT youth, not because of anything that I'd ever been accused of doing, which had never been accused. They just call you that. It's a terrible thing to call someone. It's way worse than a racist epithet.
No, it destroys you.
Because it can destroy your career, your ability to earn an income. And if I believed that someone was assaulting kids, I would do something about it. And this is what people, and someone in the chat said, did I report them and charge it? It was anonymous. I did everything I could. I have access to the best lawyers, the best people in law enforcement. You cannot do anything as an argument to not allow these things to be anonymous. But I stand with those who've been abused who have to call anonymous calls on their abuser. So I stand by it in general, but that's what they did. There's no way of proving it. But they will call you a pedophile just for standing up and standing by LGBT youth. And now they're the ones literally protecting pedophiles. Literally. And then their supporters are just either in ignorance or they don't know what to do.
But they know. Look, they know. And I think going back, because I said this to Ro Khanna when he was on, we're talking about a cover-up. And I said, I've been saying this since the summer, Pete, that this is the biggest political cover-up we've seen in modern history.
For sure.
Ro Khanna agreed with me. He says, this is a cover-up. He says, in the summer watch, I'm paraphrasing, we're going to have this conversation up later. In the summer, I wouldn't have agreed with you. But after what I've seen, I agree with you. This is a cover-up. And then I said, it isn't just the Trump administration, to your point. It is all the Republicans, because it shouldn't just be Thomas Massie next to you. And I'll give Thomas Massie a bit of credit. He's gotten death threats. The entire Republican Party now is after him, right? What he's doing and Khanna's doing in a normal world, you shouldn't celebrate this. It's normal shit. If people are getting raped, if girls are getting raped, it's your job as an elected official to do this. Like, you shouldn't be getting garlands of roses. But the fact that they're fighting this, and now we realize why they're getting heat, is it's not just Republicans, right? It's not just the right wing. It's not just the Silicon Valley bros. It's an entire friggin' class of rich people who had no problem either raping girls, covering up the rape of girls, or Pete doing business with the rapers of girls if it benefited them. And what I said is, I told them this. I'm like, it isn't just the Trump administration. All the Republicans are part of this cover-up, Pete.
If we come away from this, if there's any way to just consolidate around a class war, I'm for it. Like, I'm for, because it's so easy to understand how rich, powerful people, especially men, why they do what they do, because they think they can get away with anything. And even if the moral question wasn't there, even if the crimes weren't committed, we still don't want, because of economics, billionaires. They should be eaten, not the babies, which is not a thing that's happening. Billionaires should not exist. It's an insane idea to think that you can have one person, much as hundreds and thousands now of billionaires with so much net worth, while the rest of us are fighting for scraps. And so the idea that they get away with it, take it outside of the horrific sex crimes. And all we have to do is look back to 2008 and what happened in the financial crisis, the global financial crisis. What happened there? What happened now with the Trump administration disarming and destabilizing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was created to re-regulate, to solve some of the problems. What happened when one guy individually defrauded people of their savings? What's a worse white-collar crime than taking some old person's entire retirement from them with a scam and a scheme? Trump gave that guy a pardon. He pardoned him for that, and he didn't have to pay restitution. So I'm for policies that will absolutely create more economic equality. You can call whatever idea you want, democratic socialism, call whatever you want. I don't care. I'm for way higher taxes. I'm for much more regulation. And so that these people never get so powerful to begin with, so that they think they are invincible, because that's what we're seeing. It's natural for people who have that kind of money and power to think they're invincible, especially dudes. I'm sorry, it is. So let's not let people accrue and sustain and give to their relatives that much wealth. How about that idea? It's been tried. It works all over the world.
Oh, this is where now I'm going to push back a little bit against you when you said, I agree with you. Well, maybe you might agree with me. I agree with you when there's a lot of good Democratic fighters. I do. And I lift them up and I give them credit. The establishment, when I criticize the Democratic establishment, it's different from the good Democrats, meaning the Democrats.
I like that nuance. I like that hair splitting, and I do like
No, but I think it's important, right? Because you don't want to throw all the Democrats under the bus, because you got people like Chris Van Hollen. You got people like AOC. You got people like Murphy, who's doing some good work. You got people.
There's a ton of great senators.
Yeah,
I can name almost every senator in the Democratic Senate is doing really good work and has been for a long time. Most of them, yeah.
But now the person who has been anointed or thinks, and I think he peaked early, I've been following his career my entire life, the person who's the front runner, allegedly, and I don't think he will be soon, Gavin Newsom, when he was given a softball down the middle a month and a half ago about taxing billionaires, literally popular across the board, Pete. You know what he said? They're part of the Big Ten. Your response?
I think that anybody that doesn't want to tax the wealthy, and we can decide what those levels are, but the dollar you make over $1 million gets taxed a certain high percentage. They don't get to make it through the gauntlet of primaries. I think that is a litmus test. Earlier I said we can't agree on everything, but absolutely taxes on the rich. And my congressman is Mike Lawler. You know him? Just for Men guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the worst. He's worst. And I was at one of his town halls where people were getting thrown out last year. And I screamed, tax the rich. And he said, that's not going to solve anything. And I said, do it anyway. I disagree that it won't solve anything.
He'll give us money. He'll hold them accountable. What are you talking about? We could fund schools and healthcare.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I'm no huge fan of Gavin Newsom for the front runner for the nomination if we ever have another president. But I absolutely do think that question has to be answered. Yes, I will tax the rich. And there has to be in your stated platform exactly what that tax policy looks like. I mean, I've been talking about these types of policy issues for years with experts, not me. I have experts on my show, but someone like David K. Johnson, who wrote Perfectly Legal and Free Lunch. Go read those books. This is long before Trump. And there's so many other super wealthy individuals and industries and captains of industries who are rigging that industry. And now the Supreme Court is owned. We've got to end Citizens United. I interviewed a great person that you got to have on, Tiffany Muller from endcitizensunited.org. It's the 10th anniversary of that Supreme Court ruling. And what that has wrought is also really important. I knew then when I covered that issue, when I was talking to Supreme Court constitutional law scholars, when that decision came down, you knew what was going to happen. You knew bad shit was going to happen. And you also knew that the wrong people would be blamed, just like the financial crisis of 2008, which was global. They blamed black people who they said couldn't afford houses that they bought, as opposed to blaming the financial industry who lobbied for years and won to deregulate the financial industry, to create these financial tools that blew up the economy. And the same thing can happen with AI and other industries with bubbles.
It's going to happen.
And so we absolutely have to be thinking about those things. And we have to make sure that we elect people who support policies, tax policies particularly, and talk to experts who understand them. And we have to fight back against the capture of the Supreme Court, because now every industry can do almost whatever they want. They're taking the guardrails off the fossil fuel industry, the pharma industry, obviously tech, which you've been doing. You should win an award for how much you've been covering the tech pros. You've been doing such an amazing job leading on that. All of the interviews that you've done on that, the way your understanding of that and ability to regurgitate it to us is of great value. There should be an award just for you. As a matter of fact, what have I got? I've got for you right here an old pair of binoculars.
I appreciate that. I want that to be
called... Thing of mints that's half eaten.
I want the mints, and I want that to be called the Edward Murrow Newsbreaker Award, created by me for me. I'm gonna be inspired by Donald Trump.
You talk about all these. You do what I've been doing for years, and you frankly do it better because you retain so much of it. But you talk to smart people who know what they're talking about on these issues, and especially when it comes to the tech billionaires and their philosophy and their agenda and their ethos and what they want to do. You have been having all the best journalists and experts on to talk about that. And
no, but you should have them, man.
Very important. I've had a couple of them on. I just don't understand it and talk about it quite as much.
That's a really good point. I don't understand it either, which is why. Well, now I understand it because I talk to, much like you bring on smarter people, and we have a glib understanding, right? And so I listen to these smart people. And I listen and I ask the questions. And then what happens after a while, and I'm sure this happens to you, is that like your neural pathways make the connections. And then now a little bit more, and a little bit more and more, I'm like, oh, okay, crypto. Oh, okay, AI. Oh, okay, it's a grift. Oh, fraud. Oh, okay, this is how they will use it for money laundering and sex trafficking. Oh, and now with the latest tranche of the Epstein files, of course Epstein was all in it. Why wouldn't he be? Because going back to your point, it's a big club. We ain't in it. And if I'm part of this big club and I believe God or nature or Kismet has made me the superior man by virtue of my wealth and whiteness, and the world is my oyster and there's no rules that apply, that's how these people operate, Pete. Let's be honest.
I'm so mad that as a white, that it's way harder for me than it was for my parents to afford to live comfortably. I'm at my parents' house now, helping out them, taking care of them. And thinking, you've seen these charts and how so much has changed in America, how Americans used to be able to afford to buy a home when they were in their 30s, and now you can't, even if you're like 50. Like, no one can afford to buy a home. Why is that? Well, there's a myriad reasons, but one of them is definitely private equity buying up all the homes. How is that fucking legal? Who is to blame? So, like, I'm angry that my daughters who are going off to college, and I'm now empty nest, separated, maybe I want to buy a new house. Like, they've rigged the economy against us.
Absolutely.
Even the whites, with all of my opportunity, with all of my privilege, with all of my success, I've had tremendous success. I've made a good amount of money, yet life is still really scary financially for someone like me. So for the rest of people who didn't have nearly my opportunity, it's that much more rigged. And that's what sucks. And that's what David K. Johnson has been writing about for years, and so many other great journalists. And we know what the catalysts and causes for these things are. It's before you get to Trump. It's what I've been talking about and screamed out with experts long before 2016 on my national radio show on CNN and elsewhere. These are the primary factors. We know who supports these policies and these ideas. They are entirely Republicans and certainly a lot of corporate Democrats. But even the corporate Democrats, and a lot of Republicans want to get the money out of politics. Hate what happened as a result of Citizens United. Hate that super PACs and dark money has flooded every campaign. If you don't name any industry or name any part of your life, and I can connect it to how some industry or company has exploited, rigged, and lobbied the rules so that they can make maximum profit and put it way over people. And started with climate change.
It's top versus bottom, man. It's top versus bottom. I mean, I think
that's what you said last time we were alone.
Yeah. Hey, top one. But bottom will get revenge. It's Qasim says, right? Or what I say, it's the 1% versus the 99%. Like, look, at the end of the day, you're a comedian, you're a storyteller. I started off as a writer. I will still like to write. But human beings are storytelling animals. And this is why I think it's a very easy message, and why so many corporate centrist, Democrat, lefty, center left Republicans are so resistant to it. Is the narrative is simple. Let's call ourselves the protagonist. The protagonist is the 99%. It is the whites. It is the browns. It is the blacks. It is the moms. It is the people who want to be middle class. It's most of us. We want to get to a goal. What's the goal? You want to have, a job. You want to pay your bills. You want to maybe have a house. You want your kids to have a good life. That's the goal. Yeah. There's a villain. There's a villain impeding the goal. Who's the villain? Not a Somali, not a Haitian, not a trans kid, not a pro-Palestinian activist, right? Not the deep state, the left. Oh, no. It's the deep state, which is the broligarchy, which is the 1%, which is the Epstein class, which is this entire group of people.
Which owns the Epstein class, owns the Supreme Court, which buys them RVs and pays for their kids' college and pays
everything, man. They funnel money to both sides of the aisle. Everything. And I think the Epstein, I think that Pete, to your point, the latest tranche of the Epstein files just confirms it. Like, it makes it undeniable what you have been saying for 10 years, what Bernie Sanders has been saying, what so many people have been saying. This is, and it's race and class, because these people are also white supremacists, folks.
Intersectionality, for sure.
You cannot separate race from class, which I think is a weakness of many white progressives. It was a weakness of Bernie 10 years ago. He didn't see it. He didn't articulate it as much, but now he gets it. You cannot, in America.
No, Kimberly Crenshaw's been writing about this forever.
You cannot separate it, but it's race, it's power, it's white power. It's white power in the hands of the billionaires. And I think now it has become unmistakable in the past week, Pete, which is why these Democrats who are not on board with fight the oligarchy, fight the oligarchy, tax the rich, I think they're done. I don't think they have a shot in 2028 if we have free and fair elections.
No, I don't either. And I want to talk to you about that. You know, I don't think I told this, but one of the smartest kind of, I guess, financial things we did is my ex-wife is a first generation American, and her parents are Italian. So she was able to get her Italian citizenship and her passport. And then working through her aunt, it's still in Italy, she was able to recently get both my daughters their citizenship. So they're dual citizens. My younger daughter is going to college in Europe because for two reasons. One, she wants to set up and get established there because there's way more social mobility over there. They don't have nearly the types of problems with wealth concentration that we do, obviously. And they don't have to, and this is the key, and it seems so trite and repetitive, they have to worry about losing their health insurance.
Yep.
That is uniquely American. It's insidious. It's evil. It's gross. It's anti-all religion. The idea that I have to worry about that is so sad. And that's why those countries are often ranked the happiest countries in the world. And the other reason why that she wants to get out of here, and she wrote, they'll post on Instagram when they're seniors in high school, where they're going to the college, a baby picture of them. And she's like, University of Amsterdam, peace out, America. Part of the reason why my daughter and many kids of her generation are scared to go to school in America because they're scared to be shot. I never thought that was a rational fear because it's very unlikely, and that's how I live my life. But it's way more likely in America. And just the simple idea that could be a possibility, and it was over and over, every year of her schooling, she saw people her age gunned down in school. She wants to get out of here because of that, too. It's so sad. It's so frustrating that this country treats its people so terribly, that my neighbors, call me a pedophile because I stand up for LGBT youth. We have become each other's enemies, and it is the saddest thing I think about, what's happened in our country for people of our generation is how far we have gotten away from each other, our loved ones, our neighbors, our relatives, our coworkers. It's deeply saddening and depressing to me. But while my daughters are both going to Europe, and so is my ex-wife, I will stay here and fight because I live to fight bullies. That's what I do. It's who I am. It's why my show is called Stand Up and has been for 15 years. And I'm not going anywhere. They can keep trying to silence me. I would rather die doing this or be silenced or lose all my money, whatever it takes. It gives me tremendous purpose to do this kind of work, and I'll continue to do it. So we all have to.
You're like me. We're masochists at the end of the day, because I had this conversation with my wife. I think America hit the high water mark in the past, and I'm not a cynic, but you have to look at I'm a pragmatist, and I'm like, the country's never going to reach where it was in my lifetime. It's just not. There's been generational damage. That doesn't mean you give up. So the question then was, well, where do we go for our kids' sake? And your children are not the only ones. For the past 2 years, I've heard many kids.
Oh no, it's people are trying to get out.
I'm going to Norway. I'm going to England. Why should I stay in America? They don't care. Like the whole mystique, the romanticism. They're like, no. They're like, why? People are going to the East, right? And I think that's going to be more and more. America's going to be more weak, more poor, more isolated. Sadly, I think we're going to go through a bunch of things. But then at the end of the day, like you, I'm a stubborn shit, and I'm like, gotta fight the fashion.
I don't know. For me, I mean, you can call it masochistic or stubborn. Like to me, though, it's more deeply philosophical. To me, it's about purpose. Yeah, and it's about like what I've established and accomplished in my life in this beautiful vessel that I'm traveling through life in, with this perfect symmetry in my face. I have accomplished a certain amount, and I want to make sure that I continue to use what leverage I've gotten, which is not as much as most, but a lot more than others, to keep screaming, to keep fighting, to keep going everywhere and make sure we're covering all kinds of atrocities, and also these horrific policies that don't benefit us. I mean, they have us so divided over such dumb shit. I mean, it's so frustrating to me that my neighbors believe that undocumented people vote in elections. You just have to live at the very top of bullshit mountain, be stone cold stupid to believe that some guy who came here for a better life is going to go vote in an election that he's not allowed to vote in. He can't do it. When he shows up, his name is not on. You think he's going in there and presenting? Hi, the guy that looks like me walks in and goes, hi, I'm Wajahat Ali. They're like, no, you're not. Or a guy that looks like you walks in and says, I'm Pete Dominic. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm Pete Dominic, and I'm a bottom.
How do they know that? Is that on my voter roll?
Like, sir, this is not a Wendy's, and that is way too much information.
The Democrats want to make you have to check your sexual position when you register. Is that the America that you want?
Democrats want to make you into bottoms. That's what
they want to make. The Democrats want to make all women scissor each other. They do?
They do what?
Some of them.
Yes, it's because fear hijacks rationality. The amygdala fires, fight, flight. And otherwise smart people believe lies that comfort them. And the biggest lie...
And perception, exactly that. I get in an argument with my friend S.E. Cup about this, I don't know, last year before the election, and because they're about crime. People are terrified of the high crime. Republicans have been doing this, right, this playbook for years. And it's like, we live in my community. People are terrified about crime. I'm like, where? What crime? What happened?
Well, the
did your house get toilet paper?
Girls, that's fine. That's
exactly.
Fine.
But like, if there's one crime, it's too much, they think, in their neighborhood. But there, as he said, it's how people feel. No, I don't want people to make decisions for their family or for their kids on how they feel. I don't want to go through that neighborhood because it scares me. I've been going through that neighborhood every day for the last 20 years, and nothing has ever happened. And I saved 15 minutes. What is wrong with people? But people make decisions based on what you just said, as opposed to based on rational statistics and having a kind of a threat matrix that doesn't bring I'm so mad at my generation of parents. This is another conversation we've had before, for being these helicopter parents, for worrying about everything, every single possible danger, because what that does is it makes their kids fraidy cats, makes their kids have constant anxiety about that isn't going to happen to them. Meanwhile, my daughters are both eminently successful, confident, strong, independent young women. Why? I firmly believe because we pushed them in the deep end. We sent them into New York City when they were teenagers to ride the subway alone. We sent them into stores to buy their own stuff. We made them handle their business, and we didn't worry about them being kidnapped or being molested. I'm not worried about a stranger. I'm worried about a priest. Those kind of statistics should matter when you make decisions about where you're leaving your kids. I would way rather leave my kid on the corner of the most dangerous street in Brooklyn than a church, a Catholic church.
Well, I would much rather leave my kid on the dangerous street in Brooklyn than with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Or that. Absolutely. I'm not afraid. It's like this idea the Bad Bunny, people are like, that you can't enjoy other cultures, that you can't enjoy black culture because
you
you're
can't
white.
even expose them to it. That's the main thing. It's the fear.
Yeah.
What you just said explains the collective freakout of MAGA over Bad Bunny, that we are so insecure about our culture, our traditions, that we have so little faith in our children that what we have taught them, everything will fall apart, right? And so we can't even expose them to other languages and cultures. Instead, what do we have to do? Literally ban the books and remove monuments and exhibits to slavery. It's the height of
erase history. As long as I will draw the line if it's not Bad Bunny, in Latin American culture. If it was your people, like Pakistanis, India, that part of Asia.
It was Bollywood.
If it was Bollywood, that I'm not ready for that. I would be out protesting. I don't need the Pakistani culture being. What is it?
Forced down your throat with turmeric. Yeah. He's like, easy there. Too much turmeric. He goes, I can see the hips moving, but this is too much for me. What the hell are they doing with their necks? Where is their vertebrae? This alien species.
I'm so into
a right winger. He goes, Pete was a great ally, but once he saw that Bollywood halftime show, he goes, that did it.
That's where I draw the line.
He goes, I felt things in my loins when I saw those women in saris, and I didn't like it. I liked it, but I didn't like it.
The Saudis. I'm so ignorant about Pakistani culture, I can't even make the racist jokes I want to make right now. I'm like, oh, yeah, the halftime concert, everybody has to, take off their shoes and eat rice or something. I don't even know. I know nothing.
Yeah, you have to take off your shoes before entering the stage out of respect for the elders.
That's why. Why was he hanging off the power
utilities?
What was that about? I don't
Puerto
understand.
Rico, right? You see Puerto Rico, you have a lot of those there, and you see the workers, and you wanted to be with the workers. And
I thought he was I was worried he might fall. He didn't look like he climbed up there on his own. The thing was shaking. I was like, I
thought it was a fantastic halftime. Pete, shamelessly promote yourself to the 44,500 people watching.
Oh my God. Substack, Stand Up with Pete, please. I've just started over here, and YouTube, Stand Up with Pete. I do a daily show. I bring on smart experts from all walks of life. I've been doing it for over 15 years. SiriusXM, CNN. It's mainly as a podcast. But you can get it everywhere else. I do all my interviews live on YouTube, and I talk about the most important issues that affect you, your family, your community, your planet.
Oh, wait. Lisa said because of the power grid being privatized. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. That makes so much sense because of the power grid. That makes so much sense. Sorry. PR, of course, that makes sense. PR has electricity issues, 6 months without power. Yep. Because of the hurricanes. I thought it was also class. He wanted to get there and talk.
Every single thing in that, every single moment of that Bad Bunny concert reflected something about Latin American culture, and most of us don't know exactly what it meant. But I do like learning, so thank you, Lisa, and anybody else who's teaching us what the significance of any of it was. But the best was that Pedro Pascal and Jessica Alba were there.
Oh yeah, I said that to my wife. So I really appreciate that because I thought I had a good deep cut understanding of many of the things. And the power outages made sense. I thought it was because of him just putting himself side by side to the workers who were putting up, the power. I thought it was a classic, but that makes perfect sense. So there's so many layers to that I missed. Thank you all. That's why we have such a smart audience, and I appreciate that. Thank you all for.
You don't have to be anxious, by the way. Don't be anxious. I'm seeing people in the chat being anxious. Like we're all going to be anxious. There's a way to deal with this. Everybody read Pema Chodron. That's how I proselytize. Like, when my kids were younger, Pema Chodron, the Buddhist monk, read When Things Fall Apart and Taking the Leap. Those two books have changed my life. Read the Stoics. Stoicism and Buddhism are the answer to anxiety. But just one quick anecdote, Watch. Your kids are what ages now?
6, 9, 11.
My daughters were around that age, and I heard a news report that there had been a kidnapping, and 2 girls were kidnapped at a roadside stand. And I heard it on the news. They always report when bad things happen to kids. And part of that is because it's an aberration. Every day, bad things don't happen to kids, and they don't report it because most days, bad things don't happen to kids. And you don't know a kid who's been kidnapped. You don't even know someone who knows someone who's been kidnapped. That's how rare it is. But still, I heard that news report. It scared the shit out of me. But then I kicked into what I've learned from Pema Chodron, what I've learned from Buddhism, what a lot of different philosophies teach, which was all you have is the present. And you can control your emotions in your mind in the present. And at that very moment, when I was terrified after hearing that news report that something bad was going to happen to my girls, that they could be kidnapped, I realized that they were in school, that they were safe. And I didn't think about the past. I don't want to think about the future. But in that moment, my daughters were okay. And I was able to remind myself and hear that chatter and stop with anxiety. Don't worry about your kids in the next day. Build them to be confident and independent on their own. You will not be there to save them from a tough argument or a violent interaction. You are not Batman. You are not a hero. Teach them to fish. Push them out. Teach them to advocate for themselves. That's what we do as parents, and that's what combats the anxiety. You feel better when you know that your child has a lot more agency, has a lot more control. And this is especially an important thing to do with girls because culture beats it out of them. And my daughters are fierce. They're independent. They're confident. They're so successful. I'm so proud of them. And I didn't suffer from crippling anxiety. My wife dealt with it a lot and went to all these sources, which I'm referring to, which really helped me a lot. But because of these theories and philosophies and staying in the present and realizing you can only control yourself, you cannot control the universe. And what you can do is raise your kids to be independent and responsible and understand the way, as much as you can, the way the world works. Because you're not going to be there to save them. You don't want to be there to save them. You want them to be advocates for themselves and take advantage of whatever agency they have. And I'm just like blown away by my daughters, 21 and 18.
And Pete's a superstar dad, folks, a great dude. And I really appreciate what you told people about anxiety because there's a lot.
Parents, especially. Yeah.
And we're going to go through a lot. It's going to be tough. But I believe, my wife and I were in the same boat, is that if given a choice between hiding or protecting or exposing, we have deliberately chosen to expose our children. And, they're at different ages. Your kids better than anyone, parents listening. But, we exposed them to what was happening with the George Floyd protests. They were even younger than they are now. We exposed them to the CRT and DEI stuff. We exposed them to, why people are marching in the streets for No King's Rally. And guess what? Kids are smart. Kids are sensitive. And not only are they smart and sensitive, they're already talking about it in school. So when they see that your parents are able to give them that type of knowledge, it makes them more elastic, more, we're talking about neuroplasticity. We have a really smart crowd today. First of all, y'all are awesome. Makes perfect sense why those polls were there. So now I completely get it. So thank you all, because of the Puerto Rican power outage, especially the hurricanes, and they've been completely neglected. But also, I was talking about neuroplasticity, and apparently we have someone here whose whole life has been spent on neuroplasticity. But, you can make your children more resilient and tough. You cannot hide the world from them. They cannot.
They're dealing with the world. But once they get a phone, they can see the world, and the world can paralyze them. And the other recommendation we always end up talking about parenting, you and I, is before you get put your kid on an anti-anxiety or antidepressant drug, an SSRI, before you do it, and I understand why everybody wants to do it. Are they journaling? Are they meditating? Are they talking to a therapist? And are they exercising? Give them the drugs, but not before they're doing those. So those modalities to deal with anxiety and depression are so unbelievably important. They're unparalleled in their success. People want to go quickly to drugs. I understand it. I get it. I'm not even criticizing it. Not criticizing anybody, but not before you've also done these or doing these in partnership with.
That's a key thing.
Get your kid to meditate. Help them. Everybody can do that. Teach your kids to journal. Make sure that they exercise, and do those things for yourself too. The answer to anxiety, believe it or not, is cognitive behavioral therapy, including cardiovascular activity, journaling, meditating, and therapy. If you're doing those things every day, you will have a much happier, more peaceful existence, no matter who you are. I firmly believe that. It's worked for me. It's worked for my family. And every platform I get, I like to proselytize about that.
It's very good. And also, everyone's different. And so, the key thing is, for many people, you need the medication, but medication alone isn't enough. You have to change your behaviors through habits. And that's what Pete is saying, right? And these habits are beneficial for everyone. Because medication by itself, without changing the habits, only gets you halfway there for some people. But for many of us, you need the habits. And again, since you've talked about it, I haven't talked about it much on Substack, only because I haven't been given the opportunity, but I wrote about it in the New York Times. I wrote about having OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. My father has it. I have it. Just how my brain it works, folks. I was born with it. I don't wish it on anyone. It makes life much harder. Our brain is like everyone else's brain, but about 2% of the people in this world, they have obsessive compulsive disorder, in which your brain is a hyperactive best friend and warns you about things that you shouldn't be warned about, but nonetheless, your amygdala fires. And so you're sitting there logically realizing, I shouldn't be worried about this. But if you had OCD like I had, we have the same brains, we're sitting right here, Pete, you would behave the same way, because your fight-flight system goes off. Everything in your body says escape, 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 right? And then what happens, folks, just to give you an insight into OCD and why it's not fastidious or being like, nitpicky. That's not OCD. It's your brain being a hyperactive best friend, warning you about things that you logically know you should chill about. And then for most normie brains, 98%, after 3 seconds, you and I have the same thought. What happens if I fall off this cliff? That's a silly thought. You move on. For OCD, it's not automatic. Yeah. We have to manually shift it back, which why it makes it so much more painful. And again, I speak from experience. It's going to just stay with me, folks. 30 more seconds. It's going to connect. It's going to connect. At the end of the day, how do you control your life with OCD? And it's so brutal, Pete. This is it. The only way out is through. And the analogy I'll give is this. The analogy of the story. You have to enter the dark forest, filled with all the worst creatures and ghosts and goblins of your nightmares, armed only with faith and conviction. You cannot indulge in the obsessions because you become addicted to the obsessions. So you literally have to go through the dark forest. Everything pops up at you. Somalian, Haitian, transgender student, Pete's bald head, Wajahat the Muslim, Bad Bunny's like swaying hips, Jessica Alba, hello. And you
Why
have
is she there?
No, just I wanted to put something nice there. And so the bad hip, everything else is nice too, folks. I'm just kidding. But you have to go through without indulging in the compulsions or the avoidance or the escape. And then speaking about neuroplasticity, your brain, folks, literally changes. And then your brain realizes, oh, I don't need to be afraid of this. By exposing yourself and avoiding the compulsions is the only way.
How are you today with OCD?
Listen, it sucks. I won't lie.
Give me an example of how it jumps into your life daily or when it does. Like
all the time. All the time. OCD is like the imp of the brain. I remember when I was younger, I didn't know. So I'm like, certain things got stuck in my head. And I felt like, this image is stuck in my head. This thought is stuck in my head. It's making me unsettling. Let me erase the thought. And so without realizing, my mental actions in trying to erase the thought and replace it with a better thought that would make me feel better was the compulsion. It's called pure OCD. And mine has shifted throughout my life, right? Because that's the thing. It's like, it could be, I'm convinced about contamination. One day I was convinced that I didn't lock the door. Another day was like a bad, violent sexual thought. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm dirty. Another thing was, what did I say to that person? Let me replay that in my head. And you see globally, what's so fascinating about human beings, regardless of where they are, the same 6 or 8 tropes reappear, which just shows you it doesn't matter if you're in China, Mongolian, South Africa, or like how human beings are so connected to the same story, right? And so I suffered quietly for years. And then usually there's a spike event in your teenage years. And for me, it was going to college. And I'm one of those people, real quick. I mean, I'm sharing because you asked me to. People see me and they were shocked. And even when I wrote that piece from the New York Times a couple of years ago, I mean, shocked. Because I'm one of those people who would rather die than like tell anyone what's happening. And people are like, wow, do you have OCD? You're the guy that we lean on for strength. And you seem to be the guy. My friends told me in law school during the bar exam, we purposely sat next to you because you emanated confidence and calm. And I'm like, isn't that interesting that outwardly people see me as this guy, but internally there's a raging storm. And so the only way I thought about this a lot, it goes back to your point. The way I'm the way I'm made by God, by nature, by Chisma. Pete, I have 2 choices. My instinct tells me never to go into the water because of the OCD. But I know if I never go into the water, I'll never be able to catch the wave. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So for a guy like me to operate, I have to deliberately every single day throw myself out there and resist the voices in my head that mean well, that are trying to protect me from myself. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Well, it makes what you're saying. You're illustrating what you said earlier is going through it. You have to go through it every day. I love the comments in the chat from the therapists and others.
Oh, I didn't read it. There you go.
I mean, just reinforcing a lot of what we're saying. Yeah, don't forget exercise. I mentioned exercise, and someone who's a therapist saying fully agree. And somebody else writes, remember, Buddha as Siddhartha was protected by his dad, the king. How did that go? To the point I'm making about protecting your kids. No, Siddhartha went out on his own and became the Buddha. So, I mean, there's 2,000 years worth of research and philosophy. It's all there for you. It's all there for you. I highly recommend Pema I'm telling you, those books changed my life. The book is called, the one that really affected me, and so many people have read it, is called When Things Fall Apart. I might have told you this before, Waj, but I was hiking with my very wise 15 years older best friend of mine several years ago. And he told me to read this book when I was having some troubles. I just lost my job. And he said, you got to read this book When Things Fall Apart. And I said, but Ken, what if things don't fall apart? And he looked back at me on the trail and he said, Pete, things always fall apart.
That's right.
And I read that book and it just changed my life. And I have been pursuing, I read it like every day. I read chapters every day. I read them out loud. I've read and recorded them. Not only that, but obviously like Stoic philosophy and Buddhist philosophy. Those are the ways for me through anxiety and through depression and through all of this. And so anytime we share these modalities, especially for men, because somehow it's harder and weirder to talk about these things. But Waj and I are not cucks. We are not cucks. Beta. I'm a beta. But am I a beta cuck? Did I freeze? Are we here?
No.
Am I on?
No. I married up. My wife is super hot and smarter than me.
Yes.
I have.
Sorry,
I can give a. I drive my Honda Odyssey minivan. I think we're very confident men. I think we have a quiet confidence about us, and that is why we don't have to act like Elon Musk, who are very insecure, or these incel bros. I think that's why, like, we can openly say, yes, I have 2 daughters. I have a son. My wife is dope. I think that's a sign of confidence and masculinity. And I think these people who call us cucks are projecting. It's all projection. I think they're very weak. And I know some people, I'm reading the comments now, I'm catching up. And I just shared my article that I wrote. Wow, it was for like 8 years ago. I'll tell you something, though, Pete, and we've talked about this before. I'll keep you for a couple more minutes. The reason why it's important, I think, to talk about it, I appreciate you bringing this up because, especially for men, when I wrote that article, it was a real risk. This was 8 years ago. And I thought, man, if I write this, what are people going to think about me? What will people say? And this might hurt my career. This is 2018 because people might think X, Y, and Z. Instead, what happened, Pete, this is fascinating. Nobody mocked me. Nobody made fun of me. And on the DL, I got so many messages, not just from men, but like I can't name them. I'm talking about published authors, musicians who have suffered and continue suffering in silence, number one. Number two, a lot of people are like, thank you so much. I haven't mustered the courage to share that with anyone yet. And then I became like impromptu DIY therapist for a couple of people. And I ended up helping them, following some behaviors. But there's so many people who suffer in silence because of shame. And especially men. And Pete and I have always joked that there's so many men our age and older, like there's our generation of men and older, like we're this old beta model that like we just die at the age of 65. And people are like, that's so strange. He did pilates and yoga and he was a vegan. And then, but if you did a spiritual autopsy, you would see, loneliness, anxiety, depression, sadness. I can't hear you. Your cuckness, the cuckness took over your voice. No, can't hear you. What happened, bro? You were perfectly fine. Go back to where you were. We'll talk about that. I had no idea that people seem to enjoy that little diversion we did into anxiety and OCD and how to manage it and mental health. It is a daily. Yes, Bill Burr did call 2 years ago, called the Drop Dead Years. Very on point. I'm just waiting for Pete to come back. Pete has gone silent. I don't wish OCD on my worst enemy. It is just the way my dad has it. I have it. A cousin came out and said, I have it. My dad, respect, South Asian immigrant, senior citizen, goes to therapy, tells people about it. I mean, think about it. I'm talking about men, right? Men and culture. We don't talk about this stuff. So my dad, has controlled it with behaviors. I've tried my best to control it with behaviors. I white knuckled it for 20 years. And I got like 65% across. Nope. I'm just waiting for you to come back. And then finally, about 3 years ago, I decided to finally get help with a therapist. And the first thing therapist said is, I'm sorry. That must have been painful. You struggled for so long. And then my wife was like, told you to go to therapist, idiot. And I'm like, I'm just talking like a dude. Don't talk like this, but I'm being honest. Many men are like, therapy's gay. Empathy's gay. Talking about your feelings is gay. Pete Dominic's gay. Rubbing a cat's gay. Smiling is gay. Everything is gay. I'm sorry. Like, that's just the mindset of so many men our age and older. Everything is seen as weak and effeminate and gay. This is just how many men from our generation older talk. And instead of getting help, you end up suffering. And what makes it worse, I remember what made me finally do it, is I said, am I stopping myself from being the best version of myself, the most healthy version of myself? And is that going to impact, or is that impacting my wife? And is that impacting my children? So that's why I did it. I'll give Pete 5 more seconds. Gloria, that's so sad, Waj. I'm one of the good ones. But if I may, since I have 5,000 people here, life expectancy has gone down in Trump's America. We don't have healthcare. White men in particular in red states with a lot of guns, where they have loose gun laws, are killing themselves. So men are killing themselves. Men are losing their jobs. I'm not just saying just men, folks, all right? And I know whenever I talk about this, a few women are like, who cares about the patriarchy? Who cares about these misogynist men? You should. They're going to be your sons, your uncles, your fathers, 49% of the population. There is something in society where if you see a woman, I'll give you an example. Suppose I go to Safeway later today, and I'm trying to get popsicles for my daughter. And I see a woman just crying. And I'm like, are you okay, ma'am? No, just had a rough day. Society allows that. And I'm like, you know what I'd say? I'm like, oh, okay, you're fine? She'd go, yes. Can you imagine a dude doing that? Like a dude, like just a dude, like a hairy dude like me, just sitting there like crying. You're like, excuse me, sir, everything okay? Just had a rough day, bro. Like, it doesn't happen. So men, especially our age and older, are taught to be a good man is you suffer quietly. Suffering quietly means you suffer well, and then you die, all right? Which leads to, wait for it, a lot of toxic men. A lot of these toxic men are in power, and unfortunately, they have a lot of money. And you see these broken-ass men with daddy issues who are incapable of dealing with emotions and thought, performing and cosplaying as these alpha crusaders who are completely effed up, right? That's the extreme version. But a lot of guys, in particular, the ones of us who aren't psychopaths like Pete Hegseth and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and all these other losers, they just suffer quietly. And I think what happens is it harms them, it harms relationships, and it harms Pete left. Let me add Pete one more time. Give me a second so we could say bye to Pete, and I'll say bye to all of you. And it makes them the less optimal version of themselves. So I hope this was helpful for people. For those who are watching, 5,000 people, that's usually more than we get. I was listening to Pete Dominic. We were talking to Pete Dominic. Pete Dominic is a fantastic host. Stand Up with Pete Dominic is his show. I want to post hey, hello? I can hear you. Hello.
Am I back?
You're back. All right. I was ending and I was promoting you. Stand Up with Pete Dominic, and I was just talking about, I don't know if you heard, how a lot of people seem to appreciate our conversation. And just a quick recap.
Yeah.
A lot of people older, we're not taught. Men aren't taught.
Yes.
To talk like this.
No, it's so important that we keep having this conversation. You and I have threatened to do this kind of on a regular basis. I mean, we don't necessarily want to be repetitive, but people always do really appreciate it. You know, talking about our experiences and being vulnerable is strength. It's how I define strength. Confronting your demons, your emotional demons, your fears, whatever. I don't know if I told you this, but if you get one more minute or 2 more minutes, I don't think I told you this, but my parents were in a horrific car accident.
Oh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You didn't tell me.
My mom and dad are 79 and 81, and they were in a terrible car accident. My mom was in the ICU for 2 weeks.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I had no idea, or else I would have.
I'm at my parents. I know, of course you would have, but I'm at my parents' house now, and my mom has just come home from the hospital after a month. And the reason I bring this up, it has to do with everything else that we're talking about in terms of anxiety and depression. The thing that I've also taught my daughters, and that I also want, this is the kind of thing men also don't talk about. The answer to going through that barrel of seeing my mother, painful with every breath, 15 broken ribs, 79-year-old woman who I adore, I'm very close with my parents. The answer to that, when she asked me, I don't know why this happened to me, I said, we will never know the answer. There is no answer to that. But we always must pivot to gratitude. The answer to all of this is gratitude. As we go through this nightmare that none of us ever thought we would be in this country, or frankly, in your life, your midlife crisis, your divorce, you lost your job. As you know, that's what happened to me. The whole classic midlife crisis. I lost my dream corporate job at SiriusXM, doing what I loved, hosting my national radio show. I lost my marriage. My wife wanted to get separated. And then obviously all the extraneous things that happened to you in your life. And to me, gratitude is the answer every day. Every day, gratitude is the answer. And that's what we have to look for, keeping track of those things. That's why meditation is important. But I just wanted to, leave you on this quote because I'm mentioning Pema Chodron. And this is just one of many that I love. But she says, we think that the point of life, during life, is to pass this test or overcome our problems. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together, they fall apart. Then they come together again, and they fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, room for relief, for misery, and yes, room for joy. And that's what you and I have. That's what, together. That's what so many of us have as individuals. And all of this is normal. And we have to find a way through it. And to me, dealing with my own personal stuff with my parents and this horrible accident, gratitude has been the answer. And with this authoritarian, horrific rapist as our president, gratitude is still my answer. It's still my answer that I'm up, that I'm alive, that I'm in the fight, that I'm here with you, that I'm in this moment doing this thing, moving my hands. The greatest moment of my career was interviewing John Lewis. That's the day I got off the bench. That's when I arrived. That's when imposter syndrome stopped for me. And he said to me, keep getting in good trouble. And getting in good trouble with you, brother, is the best thing, one of the best things in my life that I get to do with you and a few others. I love having these conversations with you. I love having these conversations with any men, with anybody, with any smart people. And those are the answers that are getting me through each day and through this journey that we're on together. And not to mention my amazing physique and low body fat percentage. This is all protein, bro.
Yeah. Pete Dominic took his rage and sadness and transferred it into a low body fat and a core strength and abs. And he also, he doesn't use product on his bald head. His bald head is actually that shiny, folks. It's good genes. And that's what happens when you're not a hater. You age well, like fine wine, like Pete Dominic. And I don't know, I don't drink wine, as opposed to terrible milk like Caroline Levitt. How are your parents right now?
They're okay. Thank you. My mom and dad are here. My dad didn't really sustain too many serious injuries outside of horrific, just, feelings being involved and guilt and everything. But my mom is home. She just climbed the stairs. Every day there's a new accolade. I'm here. I'm training her. I'm moving her. And I've got so much closer with her if I even could. And I feel very purpose driven to be able to take care of them and to be able to show up for them. Is only because of the support that I have from so many other people who subscribe and support my show too. So thank you to all those people who do that, who are listening. But being with my parents, having my parents, 79 and 81, period, is a blessing in itself. And so the fact that they could have died or been paralyzed or anything, it's just gratitude in every moment. I just keep reminding myself. I wrote that on her dry erase board in her hospital room, and every room they moved her to. Big words, gratitude. In front of her and over her, there was another dry erase board, and I wrote Queen Mary. My mom's name is Mary. So everybody that came in, from a doctor to a nurse, had to call her Queen Mary and be reminded that gratitude is the answer. It's always the answer.
If I'll say, just from a spiritual perspective, an Islamic perspective, and you could be an agnostic, atheist, Buddhist, sure. It doesn't matter. Take from what gives you strength and gives you hope. There was just a saying, a Sufi saint one time said that the two keys to heaven, figuratively or literally, in life are sabr and shukr. Sabr means patience, and shukr means gratitude. And it says, if you can hold on to sabr and shukr, this will be the keys to a figurative heaven or literal heaven, right? Horrible things happen in life to everyone, some to more than others, right? If you can endure it with joy, and if you can endure it with gratitude, that allows you to live your life with purpose. It allows you to, wake up in the morning. It allows you to take one step after another.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you let them win, if you let these bad people who are sadists, who enjoy your suffering, if you let them control you, if you let them win, if you let resentment and bitterness and holding a grudge win, then you're preventing yourself. We're preventing ourselves from seeing, hearing, tasting, and delighting. Again, Pema Chodron. I mean, that's remind yourself when you get anger, when you see the news, when you hear the horrible things, when you see these compared Obamas to apes, and you're outraged by that. How much of your power are you going to give away?
How much time? How much energy? Which is why Toni Morrison said racism is ultimately a distraction, and which is why I made the conscious choice to really enjoy that Bad Bunny halftime special. I said, let them be miserable with their halftime show. Let them be like, you know what? You go ahead and be miserable. I don't have time for this. I'm going to enjoy this. All of us are going to enjoy this. It was a great halftime show. And there's only so much time and energy I will give in my life to your misery. Real quick, Pete, if you don't mind, I brought Nick in. I got to run. You got to run. But I brought in Nick because Nick is on your wavelength And Nick is a veteran of the Nick Paro Show. And Nick has actually started, I think, a series talking about these issues. So I wanted to bring him on real quick. Wait, Pete, you were supposed to come back.
Oh, no.
I didn't. Pete's like, all right, I'll leave. I'll bring Pete on real quick. But Nick, I wanted you to come on because I wanted you to promote what you were doing.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. This is super awesome. One, I'll have to email you again. I want to get you on.
I was so out of it. I'm so sorry. Yes, you emailed me like a month ago. Forgive me.
Yeah, no worries. We're busy as hell. So I'm Nick Paro. I'm doing on the Sick of This Shit publications. I am doing a series called Intelligent Masculinity. It's both a written and interview series. I've done 2 to 3 interviews a week since the beginning of January, going through different men who are of all stripes, from large platforms to small platforms to incredible groups of like just across the community. And we're learning so much about masculinity and what it means to be an intelligently masculine man, which is you take ownership for your actions and you hold yourself accountable for your actions, and you're willing to live with the consequences of your actions and your values. And
you want to get connected to Pete? I think you'd be great.
Yeah, I would love to get connected with Pete. I think that would be amazing. I'm trying to get connected with as many people as I can.
Let me do it right now. Hold, so I don't forget. Nick and Sick of This Shit meet each other. Nick and Pete. All right, it's done.
I appreciate that, Waj. That's amazing. Thank you.
And also shamelessly promote yourself.
Yeah, you can find me at Sick of This Shit Publications or sickofthisshit.substack.com. You can find me. We have a brand new shop, which is shop.sickofthisshitpublications.com, where we're doing merch, which is kind of sweet. I'm watching a baby, so there's little voices in the background. I know you got like 10,000 kids.
Baby and pet friendly zone. You will never have to apologize.
Oh yeah, pet friendly zone, baby zone, kid zone,
toy zone,
all toy zone, Star Wars zone.
You've seen Nick. I don't know if you all can see. Nick has an exquisite collection on his right hand side of Star Wars minifigures. If you can just pan to your right, if that is possible. Awesome. That is awesome. Well done, sir.
And that's not even all of them. I have some of the Lego heads, too, of some of the Star Wars figures. Just like Waj, I'm a Star Wars. You have the better ones. I see that. Eye of Sauron over there. Gosh, I've packed up so much of my Legos. I have the Eiffel Tower, too, which fell down. And I have to rebuild it, which is kind of a shame. It has lights on it. It's all lit up. But you can find me at Sick of the Shit Publications, shop.sickofthisshit.com, or shop.sickofthisshitpublications.com, or you can find me on Banner and Backbone, which is my alternative media site, which does civic space media and content, where a lot of veterans and others are coming together to build a platform that is community driven and just civic focused, getting you back engaged.
And Kathleen said, and both of you guys somehow got married and had sex. Exactly. See,
yes.
You're redefining masculinity. And for those, one day I'll bring on my wife for her expertise. She's a fantastic family med doctor doing amazing work. But anyone who's seen my wife, the first question is how. And I'm like, I don't know. And then they're like, why?
I'm happily married for 11, going on 11 years this year. So,
congrats. I'm on 13, going to 14. Pete, you were married for how long? Like, you were married for
My wife left me. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Hey, Pete, it's nice to meet you.
Nick, follow me and Nick. Pete, so real quick.
So many, just to jump back into the conversation, and I'll jump out and watch you guys. It's really nice to meet you.
No, we're leaving. I just wanted to get you all both connected. I emailed both of you.
It's super important that men, so many men have gone through what I've gone through. We're basically, just to make it short, my wife wanted to end our marriage. We're still good friends. She's like my best friend. It's amicable. We're good. But going through that is horrible. I didn't want it. He wanted it. There are so many other men like me that they resort to and stay with anger and resentment. I never felt anger or resentment towards my wife for wanting to end our marriage. I was very sad. I've been lonely. It's not been easy. It's so important that men talk about this too. It's very hard, you're married for this long. You think, you've got a family like I do, a beautiful family, and then it ends. And whose fault is that? And how do you look to your friends? And were you a failure? And the answer to all those questions is myriad. It's different for everybody. But I wasn't a failure. We weren't a failure. Our marriage was a success. My daughters are amazing. We had a great run. It ended, but I'm not going to, it's so important that men talk with other men. There's all these divorced moms groups and therapists, and it's great, and that's helpful. But men need to talk to other men because there's this idea of rejection from your wife. Your wife rejects you. Your wife doesn't want to be with you anymore. No one will want to be with you anymore. You'll never meet another woman again. You'll never be happy again. Men so easily go to a bottle and a bullet, and no one knows that more than Nick, being a veteran and working with military members. I mean, this is such an important issue that men need to talk about, and I am very upfront and as honest and transparent as I can be about my marriage, the ending of my marriage, without in any way, criticizing my wife. And the most important thing that I learned, and I'll leave it on this, is simply that my wife didn't want to be with me in that relationship at the level it was anymore. I was angry. I was resentful. I didn't want to have it happen. She did and said ugly things to me at that time. I did some ugly things too. But what I knew I had to do was I had to model a respectful breakup for my teenage daughters. I had to let them know and model that when a man breaks up with them or when they break up with a man, it should be done with love and kindness as much as possible. And I practice that as well, loving kindness practice. And so it's hard when someone that you love is being cruel to you or attacking your character or calling you names, but you for your kids, you cannot attack back. You have to role model a respectful breakup. I'm so glad that I learned that from my older brother who taught me that. I would have been a dick if not for that lesson. I'm sure of it. So it's an important conversation for men to have, to be honest and be vulnerable about. And there's no shame in it. It's not about shame. It's part of life. Things fall apart.
I can't wait to have a really good discussion with you. I actually I was just in an interview for my Intelligent Masculinity series with Arturo Dominguez. And it's so incredible to hear your story, Pete, on how you are. One, it's really incredible to meet you for the first time. But also it's incredible to hear your story and how it fits in with the discussions that I'm having. And I can't wait to have you on for an interview, but also I'm going to get you both on I run a show called the Diogenes Club, which is a men's club show. With myself, Walter Ryan, Evan Fields, and Dr. Eric Lulov, that you'd fit right in with to have this type of discussion about, it's a men's club where you can cry with your friends, where you can cry with your brothers on TV or on a live, just having fun with each other. We danced. Walter danced for 10 minutes, and we literally derailed the entire conversation because someone was dancing on the show having fun. That was the whole, we need that right now. And so this is, to me, it's so important. All right. I kept you too long, Wash. Thank you.
I got to run. I literally have to go to the gym to stay overweight. Nick and Pete, really quick, shamelessly promote yourself to the 5,300 people watching.
Please subscribe to my podcast. I do it every day. And you can support it at Patreon. It's also on Substack. Please subscribe for free on Substack or whatever. Stand Up with Pete on that on YouTube. And that would be amazing. So I can continue to have great conversations with guys like Nick and Waj. Looking forward to it, Nick. Your turn.
Thanks, Pete. You can find me at Sick of This Shit or sickofthis.substack.com. I'm Sick of This Shit Publications and bannerandbackbone.com for both my publications, because I'm sick of this shit and now we're doing this shit. And we're going to restore integrity, service, and ethics throughout America. Thanks, Wash. You're awesome. And it's been really nice to meet you, Pete.
Nice to meet you too, Nick. And that is the end of the tape, if you didn't know. Are you still here? It's 2 hours. Did you really spend 2 hours with me? Did you really listen to that whole conversation with all of its technical issues, my stupid mic problems, Nick's kids and dogs? I could see any of that being annoying, and I would not blame you, and I might have punched out myself. Or if you'd heard some of the stuff I had talked about before, because you'd heard me before, it was repetitive. Either way, sorry if that was annoying. I appreciate you listening all the way to the end. If you did, you're a bumblebee. Part of the Bumblebee gang. You folks listening all the way to the end. I so appreciate you. Not sure what time I'm going to be live today. I think comedian Jim David is going to join me around 5 p.m. today. If you're still listening, a little bonus preview. But you never know. Okay. Thanks so much. Love you guys. Hope you have a great day, and I'm looking forward to see paid subscribers at the Thursday night hangout. And, of course, at PodJam 3 in Las Vegas, April 9th. Get your tickets. The link is in the show notes. The top of every day's show notes from now till then. Okay, bye-bye. John Carroll, the great Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter, taking us out.
Off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down, boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't in sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.